Beautiful. So happy to see you all today, and we are so excited. We're kicking off Women's History Month with a fabulous speaker, and I think it's just so fitting that we're going to celebrate women today. And of course, you guys can listen in, but we're celebrating women, and I thought that freelancing opportunities would be a great way to really kick off this month. We are, I am excited to announce that we are just today announced the new YouTube channel. And Darin, thank you. I announced it on LinkedIn because so many people have asked us for replays of the Accelerator calls. And I didn't really have a vehicle to share that. But now they're all posted up on my YouTube channel. You can go in and subscribe, and you can get to see all of the previous Accelerator calls. We've had so many fabulous speakers, and you never know when you're going to learn a tidbit or two from all of these great people. So please subscribe. I think at the beginning of the call, I only had like 6 subscribers. It's a brand new baby. So I'm hoping to get some more today and just have it as a resource for you. So if you want to go back and listen to any of our previous speakers, you certainly can. And I hope to have today's posted either later today or tomorrow. So if you, let me just pull up my chat. I don't have that yet. Here we go. Thank you. All right. So if you have ever considered freelancing or consulting as a way to supplement your income, just put a Y in the chat so we can see if anyone's ever considered that. Yes, Robert, Jorge, Samina, Norma, yes, absolutely. I'm not sure who PGW is. Sandra does, Susan does, absolutely. Oh, right, so many of you, so great. So Emily, you're watching this, right? And Darin, right? So you're speaking to the people who really want to do this, and many of them are doing it. So it's amazing that we're going to be speaking exactly to what this group is looking for sure. In addition to Emily, who will be speaking a little bit, I am honored to welcome Darin Bodin, who was one of our original founding members of the Accelerator group. I can't believe it's 3 years now. It's March. So it's 3 years since the Accelerators have been in existence. And we started this group in 2020 to help job seekers really accelerate their job search. You know, we knew that people were out there and the COVID had hit, and people were being laid off like crazy, and we just wanted to have this community of people who would support each other. And I know for myself, when I was laid off way before COVID, what I missed most was my team. I had this fabulous team. We used to brainstorm every day, and we had our morning meetings, and I always knew what everyone was doing. And without them, when I left, you know, I was so joyful to start my own business, and it's been a blessing to have it all these years. But I did miss my team. There's no question about that. And so starting with the Accelerators, we were able to create this community that has gone on. And even though, you know, Darin has gone on to other roles and positions, he still comes back and visits us, and I am still in contact. Some of my best friends I consider people that I met on the Accelerators early on. So you are welcome to be here. If you do not yet, if you're not yet a member of the Accelerators, we're just a LinkedIn community, private LinkedIn community for job seekers, and we have tons of resources out there. So if you're not yet a member, just drop me a line, and I'll be sure to invite you. Okay, so we host monthly events in the Accelerators. This month we know is Emily Hay is speaking. Next month, our event, mark your calendars. It's generally on a Wednesday, but next month in April, it's going to be on a Tuesday for scheduling purposes. So the next date is April 4th, and we're having resume writing expert Virginia Franco come and speak to us. And she has offered to answer any questions you may ever have thought about your resume and how it relates to the applicant tracking system and all those great things. So make a note, the link is open now to join, so you can join and register rather for that event. And we'll see you in April. I'd like to know that. For those of you who have, is anyone a first-time attendee to the Accelerator call?
No.
Just drop it into the chat. Just put maybe a number 1 in the chat, if you don't mind. First time, or yes, yes, yes. Okay, so, oh, great. So we have quite a few newbies. All right, for those of you that are new to the call, we do like to capture nuggets. So if Emily or Darin or anyone on the call says something that you think is particularly meaningful, I'm going to capture all those nuggets and I'm going to do a post of them so that people who are not able to attend the call can still read them and refer to them, because by experience, we've gotten some really great information from our speakers, and I want to share that with as many people as possible. I'm all about sharing knowledge all the time.
Quick thing, Mindy. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the save chat. Since we're doing all these postings, you're probably going to mention it, but just as a heads up, if anybody doesn't know how to do the save the chat at the end, in the bottom of the chat, there's 3 dots that you'll click. You'll get a little pop-up that says save the chat. So because there's a lot of us on this call and there's a lot of LinkedIn connections being posted, if you save that, it'll download it on your computer into I forget what kind of file, but that way you can always go back and refer to the chat as people are posting different pieces of information. Plus the call will be recorded and eventually on the YouTube channel.
That's true. Eventually, yes. I'm trying to figure it all out. I'm a newbie on YouTube, but I'm going to get it. Yes. So someone said, oops. Someone said you can't save a chat on the phone. Is that accurate? Those of you who know? Yeah. Okay. So apologies for that. Okay. Okay. So without further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce Emily Hay, who is calling in from Maui. Wow. She's on a family vacation and took the time out to speak to us today, which is so amazing. And we're hoping that her connection holds. So thank you, Emily, for being here. I met Emily when she was interviewed by Brenda Meller quite a few months ago. And as soon as she started talking about freelancing, I said, this is something that the accelerators want to hear, for sure. The ins and outs of freelancing is not always as easy as you may think it will be. And Emily is an expert in this arena. So I thought, what a great topic to have and a great way to kick off Women's History Month as well. Freelancing or any kind of independent consulting has grown tremendously since 2019, primarily because of the pandemic and also the rise of remote work. It's become acceptable in so many industries where it wasn't before. And so this trend is going to likely to extend over the next couple of years as more and more companies recognize the benefits of having freelance people and the flexibility and autonomy that freelancing provides. I'm going to ask Emily to introduce herself and perhaps share some nuggets with you. And we will, I'm sure, have time at the end to ask questions. We're going to have Darin speak to us as well. All right, so Emily, without further ado, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mindy. Can everyone hear me okay? It's not freezing or anything. Okay. I'm a first timer out here, by the way. This was like a bucket list trip. I'm not some, normally taking Zoom calls from Maui. In fact, Mindy, we had this plan so long ago, I couldn't think of a better way to kick off International Women's Month, regardless of one's location. So thank you again. And this has been really great to see in the meeting chat, all of the backgrounds. Thank you for asking those questions, Mindy. It sounds like we have a lot of folks that are already familiar with freelance and are possibly already making it their their main method of working. However, I saw some, just curious about the next opportunity. The neat thing about freelance, not only is it, of course, mainstream now, but it is a way to serve your career at many phases. So it's not just something that, a lot of people might make the leap and never go back, but it's something you can do temporarily or to enhance something that you're already working on. So I will get into all of that. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. And Mindy, I'm sorry, I should have asked for time purposes. When would you like us to be able to complete the presentation by?
If we could stop right around 20 of, that would be great. So we have
Okay.
time.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. As well. So if you have a question you want to pop in there, please go ahead. But I'm assuming everyone can see my screen here. So, okay, today I've been thinking about this topic for so long because I live in this freelance space, and it's funny, one of the baselines I'd love to set, I often get in conversations with people that say, do you mean like consulting? Do you mean you're an entrepreneur? Do you mean you're a small business owner? Do you mean you're a freelance professional? It's all of the by the way, my computer is telling me I'm trying to connect. Am I okay?
You just dropped off for a moment.
Okay.
It sounded like I almost thought you were disconnected, but I hear you now. So yeah, you froze for a bit.
Okay, I'll make sure my Wi-Fi is cranking here. So like I said, just a baseline that I think people get caught up in nouns and titles. And that's one thing that I've talked to a lot of folks with corporate background, that they very much prefer the title consultant. And in the chat, I've been self-employed for a good amount of time. So I consider all of the titles to be connected. So, okay, well, let's at this point that I'm breaking up. So, okay, so let's go into what we'll cover. We'll talk just a bit about Mindy. I mean, I'm building off of what you said, that we all need flexibility today. And so there's a reason why people are finding freelance to be a desirable professional container. Of course, I'll give some stats and whatnot, and then we'll dig into the meat, of course, about not only the industries that are really beneficial to having a freelance way of working, but you can also specialize in certain areas. We'll go into landing opportunities, enhancing your resume, and of course, time for some Q&A. So, okay, everything going okay so far?
Yes, I can hear you fine. I think you froze once or twice. Can you see the chat, Emily?
Yes, if I pull up chat, does everyone then see it? Can you?
You can select, I'm going to, if you start freezing, I'm going to connect, I'm going to let you know in the chat, because I don't know if you can hear me when you're frozen. I just don't know.
Okay. 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 So as we said, we just got done with the pandemic. I don't need to tell anyone of what that was like. But basically, corporate America, as the rigid definition as it is, just isn't a fit for everyone, and it isn't a fit for all phases of our career. So being Women's Month today, I mean, there are plenty of stats showing that women are the primary caregivers in many family configurations. So that's obviously why flexibility is important. But whether or not you're ways to work, so freelance is clearly a good fit for that. But also workforce reentry. So that's something too that when I spend a lot of time talking with folks about going freelance, women, men, but women in particular that may have a resume gap, or just anyone that has left the workforce for any after job loss. So what's a great way to erase that gap on your resume? It can be by going freelance. So you no longer have to deal with, the mental anguish that it may give you. And also you can quickly build on in any interview setting what you did during time between I refer to, our avatar, Marie, a woman that is a professional that wants to be fulfilled, needs income, but wants to go more into work-life integration. So again, that's kind of a work-life balance is a bit of a trigger word for me, just because personally, when I became self-employed, work-life integration was what really allowed me to feel that autonomy and flexibility. So work-life balance felt so rigid and felt so corporate to me. So big into work-life integration. And back to what I was just saying, that if you can control your own narrative and control your own work situation and say that, well, right now I'm going to re-enter the workforce, but I'm going to do it on my own terms with freelance opportunity, then it's a great way to have that control. So if I haven't told you by now, I'm certainly a freelance advocate. And like I said, it's something that people will say, well, I thought freelance was just for writers. Or I thought as I was preparing this deck, I should have grabbed a screenshot. I was in a group on LinkedIn that there was and I messaged her separately and I just said, have you ever considered freelance? And her first reply back to me was, I don't know what skills I have that would work for freelance. So again, just leveling the playing field that freelance isn't just for writers. It isn't just for photographers. It is something that can serve you regardless of your skill set. And oftentimes people just need their eyes opened to say, oh, okay, so it's a thing. It's normal now for me to bring my skills in a different way than just as a full-time employee somewhere. So this next slide too, as you'd like. So as Mindy mentioned, and I've been talking about freelance being mainstream. So that's really one of those silver linings from the pandemic that I find we don't have to convince people as much that you are a legit and dedicated professional if you do work in a freelance capacity. You're not some free spirit traveling the world with your backpack. You are a legit professional. Fractional executives, that's another category I'd put into the freelance bucket, just working differently with our time. And that big argument that you have to accept that you are a legit professional or that companies have to give you that credibility is just not what it once was. So some of these stats will just say that not only is this better for us as workers, but businesses, it's impacting their bottom line of how freelance can work for companies, but they can pull from different budgets when they bring on freelance contractors as opposed to full-time employees. So not only do businesses benefit from using freelance labor, it's also something that is bringing better results because they have very specialized professionals to help them. My colleague and I did write this article for Fast Company. And the point, as you see this title about why just go freelance is crappy advice, is because it's more than just having a laptop and some professional experience. You need to approach freelance with a different mindset. And that's what I was talking about, that if you prefer to say I'm consulting or I've decided to go out on my own or become an entrepreneur, it is all of the above. But one of the big challenges we see with just throwing around the advice, oh, just go freelance, is that people, they don't have the right expectation of what freelance looks like for themselves. Excuse me. And they don't have there's no major in freelance. You can't go to college for freelance, and you can't necessarily take a class that's going to coach you through running a freelance business. So when I talk about upskilling as being a critical piece of making freelance work for yourself, it's really just dialing into your skill sets and maybe getting an additional certification or training yourself to really specialize. I'll cover that in a bit, but just letting you know that the whole point of, even though all the stats are showing freelance is mainstream and businesses are embracing freelance, it's unfair to tell someone to just go freelance. In fact, we make the metaphor that it's almost like saying you can go climb to the summit of Mount Everest without oxygen. I mean, 5% of people do it, but you're going to be set up to fail if you do it that way. So here are a couple of industries just to give you a little bit lay of the land. I spend a lot of time My background is social media marketing, so I really dig into digital marketing as an industry that's touched by freelance. In fact, the entire time that I've been in social media, I have always worked with freelancers. So it's great to see that digital marketing is one of the industries here, but by all means, it's not the only one. And you don't just have to be, a social media posting from your phone professional to benefit from freelance. So as you look at this slide, just to see the various industries, they're broad. Darin, I know we said in the beginning of the call, could I put you in medical, the medical industry as one that you've worked as a consultant in? So, and this article was from 21. So again, it's always changing, but you can't go wrong to at least be enlightened that it's more than just graphic design or digital marketing. And back to the other notable mentions, the project management. I really do think of that woman that was just being too rigid with how she could work and thought, I'm a project manager and all I can do is be employed full-time at a company. So when I talk about the secret ingredients of freelance, first of all, as you're looking at this slide over to the right, I will talk a bit this slide and next. There is a company called We Are Rosie, and they are based in Atlanta. If anyone's heard of them, they serve marketing freelancers in particular. So I would highly recommend checking them out if marketing is your industry. It's not just digital, but marketing. And that this company has basically in a few years, by rethinking the future of work, become a $110 million company. So really forward thinking, growing super fast company. And I mentioned them because, so we did a collaboration with them where we said, you help marketing professionals gain freelance opportunity, we can help train those professionals. So that's how I know this gentleman, LaPre George, who's in charge of community at We Are Rosie. And we've had a few chats and have covered in video context, just is freelance a career for me? So to be successful, so the number one thing, I should have numbered these and not put little bullets, but having a specialty is one of the primary ways you can be successful as a freelancer. I know I'm preaching to the choir because again, there are many of you that they're already working in a freelance capacity, but as you think about how could I be doing this better? How could I double down on one of my skill sets? That can be a huge game changer, is really having that specialty. And I know everyone's familiar with jack of all trades, but in freelance work, it can really be a downfall to your success because you become this generalist who is capable of doing a number of things, but you might not be known for one particular thing, or you might not have, maybe you have 10 project examples, but there isn't a concentration of them in one industry. So, and again, I spend a lot of my time helping people that are looking for a social media freelance skill set. So just be laser focused, know what you can do, be sure you can do it well, and then have testimony to that work. So I'll talk a bit about that. By the way, We Are Rosie did every year they do a report. And so even their findings showed that having a specialty is one of the top ways to be successful as a freelancer. Defining your services. So this, again, we can almost like writer's block. We can get in our own head and think, well, I know what I can do. My LinkedIn says I'm a digital marketing professional. The world should understand how they can hire me. And I feel like just changing your mindset around that point alone can make a huge difference between a business saying, well, I've got two people, I've got two project managers, and one of them has broken out for me the services that I can hire them for, what the deliverables look like, what they will charge me for that. I'm going to go with that person. Again, they might have equal qualifications. They might have very robust LinkedIn profiles. But if you aren't defining your services and just assuming that people will know, well, since you're a project manager, I assume he or she can handle all of these tasks. It's a quick way to just float in, not really finding good opportunities, finding opportunities that, oh, they didn't pay me what I thought, or it was really rough to get the project off the ground. Have your specialty, define your services. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about very technical pieces of this. So I'm happy to go into more detail about that, because I know that can be a challenge too of, well, what do I say I do? How do I price my services? But just breaking it down, talking to someone that may not have ever considered hiring a freelance bookkeeper or a freelance project manager, defining your services in an easily digestible way and having a cost associated. So upskilling yourself, that is easier than ever. You know, I know everyone here is familiar with LinkedIn, and I know LinkedIn has plenty of courses, YouTube, Google till your heart's content. There are plenty of ways to continually upskill. That's something too that I use that verb all the time, you know, upskill yourself. It's not really training, and it's not really going back to a formal education situation, but just little courses here and there, whether they're free or there's something that you formally enroll and pay for. But upskilling yourself, you cannot go wrong to continue to sharpen those skills, because when you work for a company, you might have opportunities handed to you, additional trainings, got to sit in this webinar or sit in this session. As a freelancer, you really need to do that for yourself. So some pitfalls. What I mean by set expectations that serve you. So this goes hand in hand with the being successful. I will talk to people that get into freelance and they feel like, my life as a corporate professional ended on this day and it was a successful one. And now I'm going to be this successful freelancer and it's going to start like that. That's just not a way to look at freelancing. So expectations that serve you, are you looking to change industries? I mean, that might be one thing. If your expectation is, I want to change industries, then it would be a good idea to possibly pick up some freelance projects while you're still employed in the other industry. Go down the rabbit hole of upskilling with different bits of information, of course, to learn a new industry. Another expectation might be just exposure. I just am looking to expose my brain and things to different opportunities and learning. So if you have that as an expectation, it can take a lot of the pressure off of, I must make this much and I must do it by this time and I must have 10 testimonials by this date. So you're just looking to dabble. Another expectation I would say is simply to just try out what having some flexibility could be like. So I make a distinction between flexible work and working flexibly. So the pandemic really allowed us to work flexibly, take your day job and do it from home. But freelancing generally is flexible work, which means you can do it at different hours of the day. Oftentimes companies might have a little window where they might prefer a time zone, or they might say, we need you to be available this time of day, but it's not an all day physical in-person situation, of course. So that could be something too, where you just say, I'm just looking to have some more flexibility, and how can I achieve that? The don't expect it to be a perfect science is very much like the defining your services. It's so easy to get caught up in our own head of, well, I know what I do, but I don't know what to charge. Did I undercharge? If you overcharged, maybe you didn't get the gig, but just get moving. It's not a perfect science. And that's something too that is so easy for us trained professionals to think, well, there's a rate sheet for project management, or I should just be competitive with the next freelance bookkeeper. It simply doesn't work that way. And the best advice I would give when just coming up with something is figure out roughly how many hours you could picture yourself dedicating to a project. So again, in a marketing context, if a company is looking to bring you on as their social media manager, how many hours per week would you look at dedicating to that account? You got to start somewhere. I mean, you could say, well, Emily, I love this work and I'm going to spend all 40 hours on it because I love it. Well, maybe it's a 5-hour-a-week project. And so when you come up with the number of hours, then at least multiply that by an hourly rate that you feel is competitive and something that you're satisfied with. And it's okay if it's on the lower end to get yourself going. Trust me, I'm a full advocate for charging what you're worth and not giving away your expertise for nothing, but objects in motion stay in motion. And once you just set a price and move forward on a project, you're going to learn so much for the next time. As for the don't be a lonely freelancer. So again, thank you online life. Thank you social media, that we have groups that we can connect with each other, LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, just even Slack. I mean, there are so many organizations that have memberships and will give you a Slack community. It's so vital. in fact, for the 10 years that I went out on my own freelancing, I had a contract team that we would see each other sometimes in person and of course online. And without them, I would never have made it the 10 years, because that really made it feel like a legit business situation where I wasn't just working all by myself and stuck in my own head. Let me check the chat real quick. Is everything going okay? I'm seeing, okay, some notes
Yeah,
here.
we're doing well. A couple questions, but
Okay.
they can be waiting till the end.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Never want to be that just talking head. All right. So let's talk about landing those freelance opportunities. Thank you, technology. Thank you, freelance being mainstream. I will not say thank you, COVID, but at least there are sites, complete companies dedicated to helping people find freelance work. It's not just go down Craigslist or just find some random person on Facebook. I mean, of course, there are huge organizations that deliver freelance opportunities. When I say, okay, so many avenues to work. So this is again, level setting, that businesses can become your clients directly. So let's picture a pie chart. So, okay, I'm a freelancer and I have my pie chart. What does my portfolio of work look like? Well, you could have half of your work coming in from clients that you contract with directly. So that business, you're handling everything for them, from the contract to their metrics to invoicing them. They are your client. Another thing you can do, I have subcontracting here. I found most of my success over the years with larger projects and higher retainers by subcontracting to agencies. So that's something that, I think as homeowners and as everyday people, we think of, oh, a subcontractor, I get it. But we never think to put ourselves into a subcontracting situation where digital agencies, PR agencies, bookkeeping firms, consulting firms, they will hire you to be a subcontractor. So perhaps you look at your pie of work and you have, half of my clients I contract with directly, but another third of them I get because I am Emily with XYZ PR agency. You get an email address to work with that agency. And that can be a way that you work on bigger projects that might have a bigger budget. And just like any other contract work, it can come and go. But that can be that kind of relationship with an agency will just serve you for a very long time. I have so much experience with that. I consider there was a woman in New York with a PR agency I keep referring to. I was her social media arm. So I got to work on big projects like Teletubbies and Think Fun. They make board games, just big brands that I wouldn't have had opportunity to. And she was so great to just keep bringing me in as the contract extension. So these marketplaces, jumping around a little bit, just again, to show you that you can head to sites like We Are Rosie. The Mom Project, yes, is very, very female focused here on the kickoff of International Women's Day. Upwork, they're huge. I have nothing negative to say, but I at least appreciate that some folks will say, well, Upwork is very much onesie, twosie gig projects, especially in marketing. So surf around. Surf around, see where the other freelancers on that site are located, see what they're charging, give yourself a barometer of what does a good profile look like? What does one look like that I would never hire that person? And if nothing else, and I have no affiliation with Upwork, if you were to create a profile on Upwork, it could be a place to just practice and just kind of start to see, opportunities that come your way or people that ping you and inquire about hiring you. So building on what's working for you. So I would say, like anything with your resume, we take so much experience from our corporate jobs and we make sure to plug it in. But with freelance testimonials, it's so important to what you do. And I have found there's no perfect science, but my best practice would be if you complete a 3-month project, write the testimonial about yourself. I'm not kidding. Write it about yourself, but make sure to give it to the person that hired you and say, hey, I'd really love to put this testimonial on my website, on my LinkedIn profile. So A, if you write it for them, you are taking care of the points you want to highlight. And B, you're just saving them time. They are welcome to edit it. They are welcome to make sure that it's honest. But things fall through the cracks. And 3 projects go by and you're like, shoot, I asked all those folks for testimonials, but I never got one. So just as a project wraps up, just make it part of your practice to say, okay, last invoice is coming your way, and here's a testimonial that I'd love to be able to use. And if they sign off on it, you can go to your LinkedIn profile and you can go to request a recommendation, and then a message pops up. And so paste that blurb in that you just wrote about yourself, and all they have to do is say accept, and then it shows up on your LinkedIn profile. Referral business, I just talked about my subcontracting opportunity, that more business comes your way as long as you're doing a great job. Referral business is definitely part of the freelance game, and it works in your favor. Like anything, referrals are everything, right? Being open to other assignments. So this is where I would say, just to keep your mind open, I did social media marketing for a large franchise dental practice, and they would ask, what about text message marketing? Well, I don't have experience in that, but I'd love to learn. So being very candid with the client and said, let me figure more out about text message marketing. We learned about different software to schedule appointments. So I didn't adopt it as a service that I offered ongoing, but be open to those assignments. And I really just advocate for, saying yes before you're completely ready, because otherwise you'll just kind of get stuck always thinking, well, I'm not qualified enough. So if it's totally your own decision, but if a complete out of left field opportunity comes your way, maybe you'd say no to that. But if it's anywhere in line with what you might be curious about, go explore that. So as I wrap up here, so this last slide here is just to talk again about everything I've built on, that upskilling yourself, get it in your LinkedIn profile, whether it's something formal or not. Make sure to put it in licenses and certifications. It's just good nature. I mean, I'm talking to a LinkedIn savvy group here. So I just would advocate that you don't, only look at it in the context of formal certifications. I mean, you can have a link to that certification or not. You can describe what you learned. We get rigid in our definitions and think, well, licenses and certifications, unless it's something formal that I paid and went back to school for, I can't possibly put it in that section. But I'd advocate that if you took a training through like Sprout Social, I mean, they have a certification, and I connected it with their LinkedIn page. So just keep filling out that LinkedIn profile, because it does make a difference. Just setting yourself apart, of course, comes from that. And then, so skill enhancement. This was something that, again, speaking to a very accomplished room of professionals, with the Fast Company article, we spent time talking about this isn't just for the newbie. This isn't just advice for someone who, I'm looking to find something. I just finished school. It could be a great way to start that way too. But look at it as skill enhancement. It's something that will give you different experience as you march down your career. I just, in the beginning, talked about this fractional executive term. I was doing some Googling around all of that just to even see when that term started. But there are so many people that are working as a C-level executive, and they're just splitting their time among a variety of clients. So again, freelancing consulting is not just for someone who's brand new or is lost or is just throwing spaghetti at the wall. I mean, it is a viable way that you can dial down deeper into your own past experience. And then freelance is flexible. Is there anything more obvious than that? But not only is freelance work flexible, learning how to freelance and practicing on projects and taking something on the side is something that I just would tell you, don't tell yourself, well, unless I'm fully freelance, it's not something I could do in addition to being an employee elsewhere. Okay, Mindy, I'm hoping that my connection has been okay, and happy to take some Q&A. How are we doing? Okay on time?
We're doing fantastic. Thank you. This has been amazing, Emily. Lots of, they want part 2. I'm seeing that in here because there a lot of interest in this topic for sure.
Great. I'll stop sharing so we can answer questions, talk to anyone that has questions.
Absolutely. And I want to give Darin a chance just to give his perspective, because he's actually been doing this, and I think he's got a great perspective. He comes from a strong background, and I think it'll enhance what you're saying, Emily, that everyone can be a freelancer. You just need to define what your what your skills are and what you are able to provide to the marketplace. So Darin, why don't you give us a bird's eye view of your background and
Sure.
how you got into freelancing and maybe your experience with that.
Yeah, and one thing that Emily talk was great, and lots of great points in there. And I speak from someone who's been doing, working as an independent now the last three and a half years. I'll always take nuggets away. I learned a few things. I was taking some notes as well from your slides and appreciate that. Some really good information. One commentary I'm going to add in here, because I've seen a couple of questions, like as an example from Susan Davis on here about nuts and bolts, pricing, legal entity, LLC, insurance. And probably Mindy, afterwards, you can probably capture, various different nuggets, like you said, and you would send them out, because those are actually just for someone who's going out for the first time to leave. If you've been working in the corporate world, those are great questions that you probably want to do a little homework on to understand, what type of entity you want to be. How do you manage, expenses? How do you manage your taxes? There is a lot of little things that you're going to have to do to be like an independent professional working for yourself, but supporting others. And I know, Emily, you've been doing it a lot longer than I have, but, after 22 or so years of, being in corporate America, working in the medical industry, and going through a layoff after my former employer was acquired by another company. And then the pandemic hit, so I had to rebrand myself and start to do, let me back up. Not start to do. I made the conscious decision that I am going to do a type of, I'm going to freelance myself. I'm going to look for those opportunities where I can support organizations. I can do it on my own time. And I'm going to be honest with you, I like working from home. Now, do I travel? Do I meet with clients? At times I have. But I get the opportunity, even post-pandemic, I'm a work from home consultant. So, and I am going to use the word consultant. I do marketing consulting. I do business development consulting. It just depends on the nature of with my particular clients. A couple of quick things in there to answer on. I'm an LLC. My pricing, I've done a lot of research throughout the internet, as well as I work through a third party, another one that is BTG, Business Talent Group. And if you look them up, BTG is owned by one of the world's largest recruiting companies that looks for senior leaders, executives, and others, called Heidrick and Struggles. But BTG is a different type of company to Upwork, but similar. And they're looking for various different professionals that can support in the financial world, the marketing world. I've seen operations. You sign up with BTG. BTG is going out looking for clients and then hiring you to go work with that particular client. Your fee structure goes through BTG, which is what I've been doing the last about 2 years. I've had an engagement working with a diagnostics company. And with my engagements, they were shorter contracts, but then we kept doing renewals because we still had more business. There was more needs, and we just kept extending. So my compensation paid through BTG to me, and then the client would pay BTG as part of the LLC. Then you have to manage your own expenses. You do have to manage, figure out your taxes and a few of those things. It's not that bad, but you got to do a little homework with it. I chose to do business insurance. So if something does go wrong, I did it through Berkshire Hathaway. It was reasonable priced, just as a CYA, because the world we're in, we live in a litigious society. So, all right, legal aside, just real quick on, doing the freelancing and working with clients. I've actually enjoyed it a lot outside of the corporate world. I don't miss right now of having to write reviews for my team members that report it up to me. I don't miss the politics that does happen inside corporations, and I see it, and I hear it from my client, and then, this issue, this issue and that issue. But the bottom line is, it has been extremely fulfilling because at least with the clients that I've been working with, they have actually made me feel like I'm part of the team. So it's not just this individual out there who's just doing some work and then, they're disposable because, we can just, move them on. But part of that also is myself as an individual going from a corporate environment, global companies to working essentially for myself. I'm a solo, entrepreneur, and I have to manage my own time and balance it. I have pets that run around, which Mindy knows about, and a few others that are on the call that know me. Usually I have a dog that pops into the camera or a cat, but who doesn't have those happening? But just for the sake of time, I'm going to make it short. The best thing is, if you have any additional questions, feel free, send them to me through LinkedIn. And then I'll do my best to quickly respond, as much as possible. So I'll just pause it right there, just real quick. But, again, just, I've been doing it. And I'll tell you, hey, let me add just one other quick thing is to Emily's point also with, I will be honest, most of the positions and opportunities, they're not going to come to you directly. You have to work at it. You've got to, engage, do the networking like Emily talked about. It could be through a current engagement, it could be referrals. But if you just sit on the sideline and just sit there and say, okay, the next one's going to come to me, it's not that simple. You do have to know what your brand is, know what your background is, what are your strengths, and and then a lot of it from there is networking. My last client, at the end of the day, their former CEO was my former manager at another company. So the network ended up becoming really small world. Yeah, and there's BTG. Someone just posted on there. Thank you, Sandra. And then I'm still in touch with BTG on a regular basis. I have a contact who is my individual that I work with because they're also in sales. When we are getting projects, that means BTG is getting a project and they're getting their revenue stream. So it's good to have projects. Yeah.
So
enough said.
Words of wisdom, loads of nuggets from both Emily and Darin. I'm going to just call out some people that I saw had questions. I know Joan had a question. Joan, do you want to pose your question to either Darin or Emily? And if you can come on, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm on camera now. Thank you. So my question is, how does a person, when you're working full time, brand yourself on LinkedIn in your resume? And the reason why I say that is because at first I had consultant, and when I got my resume revamped about 10 months ago, I had consultant of different things that I had done voluntarily during the early part of the pandemic, 2 years ago or so, 2.5, like speaking things on podcasts and other platforms in the space that I'm wanting that I'm branding myself in. And recently, I would say about 2 months ago, it hasn't happened a lot, but an employer kind of questioned it. At first I had consultant, and it could be them just because, like you said earlier, a lot of people either interchange it or they really don't understand the way you explained it. So how do I make sure that there's not any confusion the way I'm branding it on LinkedIn, as a freelance open to, and I have it specific on my LinkedIn and my resume, and it's consistent, but it was just misunderstood by a potential employer about a couple of months ago.
I mean,
I changed to freelance. I had consultant at first, but I changed it to freelance about 2 weeks ago.
Go ahead, Emily.
Sure. So thanks for the question. One of the things I'd say, are you talking about even in your headline? I have freelance expert in my headline, but I would always go with industry keywords in your headline as something, as opposed to just consultant or business owner or self-employed. So again, that's just very narrow into the headline. Was that an area that did they bring that up, or? Oh, sorry, Joan, I got you muted.
Joan, can you unmute yourself? Okay.
Sorry, I just did. I have it in the experience. Now at the headline, I have HR consultant, but what I did, and I had consultant at first up until about 2 weeks ago in the body and the description, but I changed it in the description to freelance because I said, well, this other company misunderstood, maybe somebody else is. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just going with also just plain speak, like as a freelance independent consultant, or as an independent consultant who works freelance. As a self-employed consultant, just like I said, just to kind of give some context, because again, the headline in particular, I would always say, if you are a digital marketer, I'd put digital marketing before I'd put consultant. So including that in your headline, but as for the about section, maybe just explaining that as a freelance consultant, this is what I do. And then in the actual job descriptions, you could say, as a contract member of this team, I contributed to the following KPIs. Just so that someone would say, okay, well, what she's doing is what's important. The setup that she has to do that as a consultant or a freelancer is secondary. And I'm with you. I think that person might maybe have just been a little confused and thought that consultant maybe was a title somewhere. But I know we're speculating.
Yeah, and I do work full time, by the way, still in an unrelated field. That's what I'm trying to move over eventually. Thank you.
Does actually, yeah, I wondered, feel free to email me or message me, because that's something too that I'm aware, I just talked about freelance being so flexible. And if you say, well, I have my full-time job and I also have some freelance projects on the side, I mean, whatever permission, one must have in order to have that be transparent, but I wouldn't save what you're doing on a freelance basis. I wouldn't keep that out of your LinkedIn profile, because again, chance for people to find you.
Thank you so much, Joan, for the question. Susan Davis, you had a question?
I did. They've actually been answered in the chat somewhat. The first question was really, I'm kind of a split personality. I go two different ways with my specialties. I've done a lot of things in my life, but the things that really interest me are proposal writing, grant writing, management, and then also event planning. They don't really go well together. So when I think about how to market myself and put myself out there, I almost feel, not necessarily in the LinkedIn world, but if I'm going on Upwork or Fiverr or one of these gig places, that I need to have two separate distinct profiles because the work is so different. So that was the first question that Emily started to talk through a bit, and we can talk about that more. And then Darin, of course, helped answer about the backbone. Like, how do you do pricing? Like, I know what I made as a full-time employee, but if I go to somebody and say, that's my hourly rate, it might be a while before I actually get a job. So those were my thoughts there.
One thing on the hourly rate, just to add to, sorry, Mandy, I'm interrupt, is the, if you think about just doing like either salary.com or a couple of other of the different websites, and you can get a general sense of, what an annual salary would be. Now, keeping in mind, over and above that, companies pay taxes, they pay benefits, they pay other, annual bonuses, they pay a lot of things that adds up. So if it's focused on your hourly rate, taking your own, last known salary, give or take, and converting that into an hourly or just a daily. I focus on daily rates when I'm working with my clients. I might work a 5-hour day. I might work a 12-hour day. I don't get into hourly rates. I can tell you that from my perspective. Other clients may prefer an hourly rate, depends on the needs of the organization. But from that point in time, then it's engaging on, if they hire a full-time employee and training and all those expenses, to have an individual like yourself or myself, you can kind of gauge an hourly rate roughly. Another thing you can do too is, if everybody goes, when you get a chance, go onto Business Talent Group, create a profile. They will give projects in there that you can bid on and have at least a visibility. They will post a daily rate. So for this type of job, the client is proposing this type of daily rate. So you have at least a sense of an idea for different industries, different job types, and what have you. I can run over. I think we only had an hour scheduled, but
yes,
I'm
we are
good,
running
just
very tight on time. Before we end, Emily is putting her contact information in there. and she would love to connect. So if you're interested in connecting with Emily, I suggest you put it in there. Darin, if you wouldn't mind putting your contact information for LinkedIn connections in chat as well, that would be amazing. We've had two amazing speakers here, and there's so many questions. I don't think we're going to have enough time for all. And I don't know if Emily has a little extra time to spend, we can answer some of these questions. And Darin, that's up to you. I just don't want to lose people who, I want to respect their time as well. So Emily, do you have an extra like
One
5 or 6
thing-
minutes?
I actually,
I'm just
I do have to
gonna-
hop, Mindy, but go ahead. Go ahead, Darin.
Nope, you first, because you have to hop. I don't just yet.
You guys are so nice in the chat. Thank you. Please email me any last questions. Again, I know that we just peeled back some layers and then there's more questions. And Susan, I think I did a half paying attention job to even answering your questions. So please email me. I will fire off answers back to you that way, and LinkedIn for sure.
And maybe after you return home from Maui, maybe we'll let her go to the beach a little bit first. And when she comes home, she can respond. How's that, Emily? Is that good for you?
Other than this week, I have a very predictable life at home. Happy to respond.
Well, we appreciate your time so much, and the ability to hear about this from a professional is amazing. And I know you've opened up a lot of bright ideas for people and opened some doors.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that. And I think we're all coming away with lots of great information. I know for sure I have great nuggets. If you have questions, shoot them to Emily or to Darin or to myself after the call. That would be amazing and great. Darin, thank you for returning. You are always welcome to our Accelerator call. Emily, you too. We always love to have people and return guests here. I think there may be some room for
Go blue.
another opportunity, Emily, to talk about freelancing some more. We'll talk about that, but go have fun with your family. So appreciate you and the time you've given us. And thanks to everyone who's
Thank you,
on the
Mindy.
call today. So great to see you, and so happy to have you amongst my group, my team. I consider you all part of my team right now. So thank you all for being here and for learning and growing with us. That's what it's all about, right? I like Emily's term, we're upskilling ourselves just by being here. So I thank you so much for being here, and you all have a fabulous day. I'm going to end the recording now, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Emily. It was good stuff. And thanks, Mindy.